about the shocking scandal swirling around their older brother, Josh.
As we've been seeing things that people are saying about our family, we feel like as the victims, we have to come out and speak. This is something like we chose to do. Nobody asked us to do this. Jess and I were talking, we're like, oh my goodness, most of the stuff out there is lies. It's not truth. And so for truth's sake, we want to come out and set the record straight.
Well, with the girls now identifying themselves as victims, what happens next? And did their parents handle this situation the right way? We're going to ask our panel to weigh in on exactly that. Dr. Gail Saltz is a psychiatrist who specializes in this exact area. Retired Detective Lieutenant Steve Rogers is the Nutley, New Jersey Police Department. That's where he hails from. And Stephanie Wise is a mental health consultant and parenting expert. I thank you all for being here. This is a real devastating story for any family who would have happened to go through this, and this is one that eyes have been on by the world just because of the size of their family. Detective, I want to start with you. Springdale City Attorney Ernest Cate reported that the case was never sealed, and the reason is that the family waited so long to go to the police that at the time Josh Duggar was 18 at the time of actual filing, and so that's why this released. So when the family says they're the victims now, that this should never have been released, that this should have been sealed, this Attorney General here says no, that's not the case. They waited so long to actually go and file this that he was an adult at the time. What do you think about that?
They're wrong. Look, the objective here is to protect the victims at all times. It seems to me there has been much focus on protecting the offender. And what has to be done is a tantamount effort, a great effort to always protect victims. Dead wrong.
Okay, let me ask you about the family too. When you say protect the victims, what about victims perhaps that may still be out there? This is still unknown. Do you think the family went through the proper procedure in terms of keeping other potential victims out of harm's way as it pertains to Josh?
Elizabeth, this was handled poorly from the beginning. You're absolutely right. Law enforcement officers need to investigate cases like this because usually there is. I'm not saying in this case we have no evidence. Usually there are other victims. So police should have been involved from the beginning. They should have interviewed the offender, interviewed the victims, interviewed the parents. Don't be surprised if there's another victim out there.
Interesting, Detective. Thank you. I want to play this sound here. This is Jim Bob Duggar saying that Josh's sisters have forgiven him. And then I'd love your perspective, Doctor.
The girls have totally forgiven Josh and have gone on. And Josh is now a wonderful husband, father. He's a godly man. And it's just like, you know what, sometimes there's young people that make mistakes, that get involved in alcohol and drugs and different things in their youth. And then they get treatment, they get therapy, and they go on, and they become very great people. And so I think that's the reason normally in society that we seal juvenile records.
Doctor, what's your reaction to that?
I think parents have to be invested in this, the idea that this is all over, this is all gone, it's gone for the victims and it's gone for Josh as well. And is that possible? It is possible, but usually for victims, issues of depression later in life, anxiety later in life, difficulty with relationships, with trust, with intimacy, do crop up. And the question is, what kind of treatment? So not all treatments are created equal. Counselor is not a particularly meaningful word. So the question, they didn't really address, was treatment with someone who actually is a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a person who is trained properly and has experience in this area. That makes all the difference. Somebody who is not can actually make things worse.
Interesting there. Stephanie, what's your reaction to what's going on here when you hear the victims speak out? We're going to hear more tonight with Megyn Kelly's part 2 of this interview with the sisters.
I was happy that they finally did. And for me, watching those initial interviews and just hearing the protection of their son, it always seemed to be protecting Josh and Josh being the one that was their first priority, and the girls are okay, just seemed so disturbing to me. I'm a mother. I have 2 boys and a girl. And everything was, let's get Josh out of the home. We're handling Josh. But what about their girls? That, to me, screamed the concern to me as a mother.
Quickly before we go, Detective, what's your next step in this? If you're on this case, what are you looking at next?
Well, zero right in on that family. You got to get the parents in. You've got to begin a comprehensive investigation to ensure that there are no other crime victims out there.
Okay. Detective Rogers, thank you for that. Dr. Saltz and Stephanie Davis, we thank you for this powerful panel on parenting. Up next, brand new